John Sinclair always interested me because he had a bit more of a community political agenda than a lot of the other sort of prime movers of the time. I got to know him through Alan Clayton, who, amongst other things, is Keith Richards' guitar tech and has his own band. And John was guesting on that recently.
It started when I made a record with a band called the Dirty Strangers. Al Clayton and his gang.
I met John subliminally through Brian, because he introduced me to the MC5, but I was unaware of John. Right, and George rang me up and said, "I've got his track I want to do with this bloke from Brighton called Tim, a bloke called John Sinclair. Can we use the studio?" I said, "Of course you can." And we met and formed a long and loving friendship.
He had a studio, and he called me up and said, "I've got John Sinclair coming in with George tomorrow to do a track for a Boss Goodman album." I went, "The John Sinclair?" He wasn't too sure, and I said MC5 and White Panthers, and that was the one. And he told him about me and my track records, having the label, and the fact that I had a wing of the White Panthers in Sussex in the 70s. So we met, and we decided that it would be good to do something musically, put Alan, Dirty Strangers and John together. And then it led to doing some gigs, and Youth went, "It'd be really cool to make an album with John."
So then I met Youth, and then we hit it off, and we said, I was thinking, since I worked on that other thing, maybe we should do a project together, an album like that with the poem and the music, you know. And he says, I was thinking more of like maybe a beatnik jazz type thing. And I said, well, you know, that's what I do. So that was our ticket to ride right there.
I was fascinated by John Sinclair because I'm fascinated about poetry, and especially the beat poets of the 50s and 60s. John was a Detroit angle on that. He was like a mixture of Ginsberg and Bukowski. He was also the kind of political guru and main visionary of the MC5. He famously came out with the, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem.
You know, Youth inserted choruses and things into my poems. It's very, that's what Alan did initially with Lock and Key. He wrote a chorus and he said, have you got a poem that will go in between these choruses? And I'd never done anything like that. And it turned out really good. And Youth had a hand in that. And he was intrigued by the idea, so that's why we've got a whole album's worth of stuff in that same concept. You know? Some of it is different sounds, some ambient sounds, and some are rock and roll tunes, of course. And real verses, the mind.
There is a tradition with 50s beat poets to do live recitals of their poetry with a sort of free jazz bebop type backing. So I've been working with John and Alan over the last couple of months, getting some material together where we can get an authentic contemporary version of that, and we're putting together a bit of an orchestra. We've got 3 drummers, 4 or 5 guitarists, sax, bass, percussion. Where the twist comes is we're going to go, of course, to Detroit and reference the dirty blues of Detroit and MC5 Stooges, and that which is incredibly relevant today and informs many young bands as part of their vision and manifesto of how they approach it. And I think that's to be encouraged and promoted. And so for me, really, my main motivation for doing this is to, you know, somehow help promote and encourage that spirit of Detroit, John Sinclair, that Dionyson current.
I'm an underground figure, you know, I'm really underground. And to be, he's kind of trying to drag me out of the tunnel. So here, you know, I'm putting some popular people, getting them to participate in our program. It's kind of exciting to me. I like it, and I've concentrated on taking what I like of my poems, the ones that people like the most, the ones that I like the most. I'm just thinking, for all the people who might know my work, which isn't all that many, these may well be heard by a much wider audience, and it's exciting to me. It's exciting. So, well, I'm having a ball anyway, so even if nobody ever hears it, I'll be happy with that. But the idea that my works might meet a new audience and a greater audience is exciting to me as an artist. I like that.
I was a cobra snake trapped in time. I got a brand new house.